Okay, welcome to Stampscaping 101. We have nature sheet number 28 here. This one is the cling foam version, the pre-trimmed cling foam mounted one. It also comes in the just the basic sheet where you cut it yourself. But if you're not good at cutting and you buy just a sheet from us, if you need help, let me know. I will assist you with the trimming. Seems like everyone loves doing the trimming themselves, though, anytime I ask. They're like, I can handle that, Kevin. I like doing that myself. But, okay, so what do we have here? We have these pine boughs, for the most part. There is a juniper here. Left and right sides, okay? So these large ones, this is the left side. For the most part, I have them kind of arcing up like that. Kind of like, whatever, towards the sun or whatnot. They could droop down like that too, without any problem, in which case that would be a large limb, right side or something like that. Okay, but I do see these, definitely the spruce limbs, with the pine cones going down, but I don't know. I mean, if you were to stamp it like that, and, with these pine cones kind of going upwards, I don't think, some people would say, oh, that's wrong. I don't know, maybe you're a botanist or something like that. Okay, so larger imagery kind of up closer to us than, the pine trees in the past. Most of my evergreen types of imagery are like this. So we're taking, just a small little section of it like that, and we're really bringing it close to us. So we're adding this sense of depth into the scene by having something that represents, a limb that's maybe 4 feet from us or something like that. I think the left and right hand sides of these things would make for a great visual entry point into a scene and create framing. I don't know, that's what I always use for my images in the past. Some of the popular ones have been things like oak branch and things like that. Crooked limb, leafless types of things that are nice and airy, so that when you have a scene in the background, you get the framing, but you also can kind of see through it somewhat, so that it doesn't obscure what's going on in the background. Okay, so the large limb left and right, they can be used in conjunction with the spruce ones, that little bit of these pines right here. We have the fir branch here, which even brings us up even closer, okay? You can use that in conjunction with these other ones or just, left alone. And I think I said in my kind of introduction to these videos, I think these would make really fantastic pieces. You can just stamp one of them out. You can put little ornament hangers or something like that, or you can stamp them in silver on, I don't know, like a gold foil or something like that, like I did yesterday, or, in a red foil. You can emboss these in white or silver or something like that for kind of great holiday types of ornamentation, cards, whatnot, with just a graphic statement of a kind of a close-up evergreen, branch. Okay, so that being said, let's get into some stamp sketches here. I pulled out a couple of the most popular images that I will try those with, okay? But let's do this in a true kind of stamp sketching formatted video. I get distracted when I'm doing stamping with, I don't know, kind of I wouldn't say scripted, but kind of a planned type of format on my videos. I'll start off with a stamp sketching video, but then I'll kind of get a little bit of a sketch, and I cannot wait to, I'm just compelled to kind of finish it off instead of continuing on with the stamp sketching and coming up with, different compositions and testing things like that. I get excited just like anyone else. I shouldn't in these videos when I'm doing stamp sketches. I just should stick with the sketch. What I mean by that is just, testing out the imagery and just a variety of compositions and just not finishing anything off. But I don't know, stamping's exciting, and, I don't know, I think you should just go with your kind of gut at times, or a lot, I don't know, at all times, or whatever. All right, let's see, we need some re-inker fluid in here. These ones are going to be fairly juicy because I'm just re-inking my pad here. I like my pads to be somewhat kind of medium. I don't like it too wet, definitely not too dry, but on the other hand, I don't like it too super juicy because I don't want kind of the tighter details to fill in. Okay. This one's just a Marvy Black. I don't know. Everyone has their own black pad or pads. Mine is for dye-based inks. I really like Marvy. It's a very dense, rich ink, but it's thinner, okay? And the way dye-based inks work is by penetrating and staining. So if you have a thinner ink, it can stain a wider variety of surfaces than an ink that's thicker, that's kind of staying a lot more surface-oriented, without absorbing into the surface. And I don't know, I just came up using Marvy inks, over the years, back when they only had pens, before any kind of dye-based inks came out. I'm not talking just Marvy inks, but at one point in time, believe it or not, there were no ink pads for crafting. They didn't know how to make a raised dye-based pad without it, the ink kind of pouring out. Marvy came up with this one with a kind of a nice dense foam to keep things contained, and other companies came out with thicker ink used with your fabric style of pad. There are other foam pads out there. The early ones were things like Vivid pads, and there's one or two other companies that go with a foam pad, but most of them are fabric. All right, so blabbing away. I love talking stamping. I talked about it too much in these videos and kind of get off track. But okay, so what I'm looking here at for in this, this is the first time I've ever used these stamps, but I'm looking for details, and those pine needles do retain the details like that. I'm looking for kind of compositional formatting adjustments here, okay? So I'm looking at that, and that's working exactly as I thought it would. Okay, I'm not done with that stamp, I'm just done with it for this scene here, but let's go with the left and right side. Okay, so now I've stamped that one out at that height. I've stamped it twice. That little bow right there is the same as that one down there. What I'm looking for is that you can repeat imagery and without it looking like the same image, just done over and over and over and over again. So we have the continuity of a similar form, but we don't want it so identical looking that it gets repetitive looking. We want it to just look like, a couple pine boughs off the same tree, not the same image used over and over and over again. Okay? Alright, so here comes another one. So that being said, what I'm doing is I'm not going to stamp that at the exact same height as its mirrored image one. I'm going to come down like this a little bit more. So I'm doing it at a different height, but you can also do it at different angles too. You can go like that, or you can overlap a little bit more. Okay. And let's go like this. So it's like when you add these types of taller images like this into a scene, it puts us really into the scene. Now we're standing underneath kind of a canopy of trees or whatnot. I could have also just stamped that one lower too, okay? But I think that's enough for that in that one. Or maybe what would have been really cool is to use kind of more of the pine cone based imagery. And as a matter of fact, let's see. That's getting a little bit busy up there with that, but I don't know. Let me take a look here. Let me see. Let me just eyeball this right here. Yeah. Okay, I think that would have been cool, having this one come right here. All right, so let's just leave that as is like that. Let's put a little bit of a focal point, or a major focal point, you can say. Like that. And we have our first stamp sketch with Nature Sheet 28. Nature Sheet, Nature Set, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And here's another piece of scrap paper. Well, it's not scrap paper, but some of these are scrap. I did little color tests on them. I'm just gonna use them for these sketches here. Okay. Well, let me see what that looks like. Let's go with here. Let's use those same bows here, and I'm kind of going. I'll be going through a lot of compositions that I had in my head. As far as the usage of these go. This is what's really fun, when you're doing these types of stamp sketching, whatever formatted videos, I can get into these compositions, and when you're using some designs for the first time, the thing that I tend to go through first are the ways, I don't know, just maybe the most common ways I was thinking about using these. And then as you use them, sometimes immediately, other types of options and variations will occur to you, when you see the pieces on the page. And with stamps, especially scenic stamps, there's so much variation that occurs from the blending and the repetition of imagery. When I'm designing these stamps, I'm kind of imagining them kind of used as they are. But then, let's say this stamp, design right here is, I don't know. I mean, if it's repeated 3-4 times on a page, it's going to have a different type of look to it. There's kind of a different coverage that takes place, and I don't know, just the different angles start to reveal kind of a different silhouette to it. So I don't know, you come up with different types of ideas based on that. Okay, now I've added black into this, but then I've added my pen and colored in here. So hopefully I get a variation of kind of a darker, like a black and a darker green in here. Sometimes I stamp it out and it's like, oh, I really didn't change it around enough. So it's, it stamps out all black still or something like that. But let's give this a shot right here and do it in that color. So see, there's a little bit of green tones in there. Okay, now my idea with that is I might go for a little bit of depth. Let's try something here. Let's do this. I don't do this maybe often enough. I do it with pigmentings, it seems like that, more often. But let's go for a second impression of it, and let's get a lighter version of it, hopefully, in the distance. Hopefully I didn't stamp off, way too much ink the first time, where the second ink is just so light, it's barely visible. Okay, that worked out just fine. That one right there it's almost like a 50% version of that right back there. Okay. And let's go with, I'm debating on whether to ink this up and to color it the same way again, or let's do this. Let's go with just straight black. Let's see, let's maybe use the one of the spruce limbs. Yeah, let's go like this. Let's combine the two. All right, so we'll go with that, and let's see. I have to figure out what blocks work the best for the designs too. Sometimes when you get brand new stamps, you kind of want to kind of rub them a little bit just to get off any potential residue. Sometimes when they're pressing rubber, they kind of spray the mold, and just as a release for the rubber. I mean, sometimes it's not. It just depends. I don't know. I don't know what it is, how cured something is. I'm not sure. I don't press my own rubber. I farm that out to a fellow manufacturer. Okay, so I've done this in black, but I'm hitting this little pine cone here with a little bit of brown. Hopefully I get a little variation in there. And I'm tempted to do the bows and the needles in just straight black, but let's go ahead and add a little bit of green to it, again, for that subtle variation. I mean, just if your pen is like green pen's like super juicy, you'll get more of that. So it just depends on where it is in relation to the ink from the pad, the black or whatever that you lay down there. If you lay down a really kind of a dry version of, say, black, but then your pens are a lot juicier, then these ones will dominate kind of the, whatever, the blend, I guess you can call it. All right, so that is that. There's some pines. I don't really see the brown too much there. I guess it's because this one's the juiciest and the brown's kind of dry. Okay, let's go for that again. And let's repeat that, okay? So I've stamped it over like that, but let's come over here now, again, for that variation, okay? Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's do this right here. Okay, now I've stamped the other bow in that green down below, that green mix. So I'm going to put this black right over the top of it like this. I'm just using a little small portion of it. And that way you get that depth in there. Can you see that right there? Where this one's black, this one's, kind of that little bit of a greenish tinge. So it looks like we're standing now, I don't know what it would be, 3 feet from this array right here, the tree. And then we can put something in the background. This would look fantastic, don't you think? Just with like a moon or something like that in the distance, and this would be all kind of blue right here. Or something like that. Or, I don't know, let's see. Let's put this right here. Yeah, let's do this lakeside cabin. All right, and I'm not going to blend in all my blues and things like that. Like I said, I'm going to try not to get distracted, but what we're doing is we're just creating the foundation for these compositions here. I do have a lapis lazuli here, so if I do this all over again, I can just stamp it like that and put a little white in there, and we're talking done. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Okay, so let's go like this. What I'm looking for is I just don't want to cover up my cabin with one of these bows too much. Because it's, that cabin is the focal point of the scene when you stamp out something like this. I mean, if I put, a person on a boat or a fisherman or something like that down there, then there's kind of two kind of visual anchor points. It'd be the person, or, if there's like a duck or a loon in the water or something like that. That would kind of pair with the dominant visual anchor point. Okay, so see that right there? And you have this area down here. You can put like a loon here, in the foreground. That'd be kind of cool. Like that. Because I can put this here, all right? Because this loon would represent something that's farther away from this right here. This would be like 3 feet, and this might be, I don't know, 6 feet away, something like that, maybe? You don't have it up here too high, otherwise you have this, gigantic, monster, loon or something like that, but you have it lower like that, okay? And this, I know this is higher, but it represents something closer because, this represents something that's coming off of a tree where, the trunk is down here, way down here, okay? That loon looks pretty cool there. Let's just use it. I haven't used my loon in a while. I want to do a video, for the channel, but using a loon. And the reason why? Well, I like the loons anyways. I love their pattern, design, etc. But I have this loon sound effect that I've been dying to incorporate into a video sometime. Okay, so there you have your for your foundation for this piece right here. And again, I think that those bows right there look fantastic with whatever. If you didn't have the cabin in here, like Merry Christmas or something like that, you do something like that. You can do it in white, or something like that, over a piece of dark paper with, Merry Christmas. You can emboss it or whatever, silver, whatever. Okay, so here's the first couple pieces like that. All right, let's keep going on. This, too, when you have all these kind of on this side, all the branches are kind of pointing that way, all right? The cabin is facing that way, but then see this loon is facing this way. So it counters the left to right visual movement into the scene by coming back around this way. So the branches all they're kind of pointing that cabin, and then you're kind of coming back around this way because that loon is facing this. I probably wouldn't have a bird facing that way because everything's kind of going off, you know, the card or the composition. Okay, so let's do something right here. All right, this isn't getting too off track here by finishing a piece because the finished piece is going to be so minimal in terms of an application that you know, it's going to be very quick to create here. Complication. Do I stamp this in white or do I stamp it in black? Let's see if black is going to be bold enough for such a dark paper here. Oh, okay. Here's the thing right here. Oh, I'll do that after this, okay. Let's just keep with the black and white right now. I just realized I would put like a little fog of cloud on this. Let's do that for the next thing. Or next video. Let's stay on track. See, I get distracted even when I'm talking about not doing that. I almost did it there. Okay, let's see. Let's go with here. Let's just do a background. I have this kind of blue down here. I never toss out my little test papers or anything like that because I figure I can always use them for some of their composition in the future. Sometimes it's even more fun than I don't know, starting off from scratch. It's kind of like making do with something that wasn't intended to be a finished piece, but you just make it into that. So I'm just incorporating that blue swatch into this little whatever cloud opening, sky opening. Okay. See how I'm going with the second impression there, closer to the light. Then I'll go with the third impression like that. Now we have our little opening in the sky like that. These are all kind of single impression off of a fresh inking, but then I went like that with the second inking, and that's the third. Now if I go with like something like that, I could, because this is so dry, but I would lose my little opening right there, so let's just leave that as is. Alright. And let's go with let's try let's see, I'd figure out which which side's up and which side's down. Okay, so that looks good to me, and this looks good to me too, right here. Let's go with I haven't done this with these ones yet. Let's see what this could look like. I normally do this type of thing with full trees where you have this kind of spirally type of formatting. It's like where you're kind of laying on the ground looking up at the sky. I think this is going to work out great here. I can tell already. I mean, you can put, I could have put a moon in there or something like that. That would be really cool. Okay, so let's do this. Let's create some. With pines, you want to keep kind of a central, like the full pine tree, you want to keep a central focal point and aim those trees always at that same vanishing point. But with these bows right here, it's not, this set vanishing point structure. I'm talking about like a pine tree, like these right here. If I was stamping this in this kind of perimeter-oriented kind of, lie on your back and look at the sky type of formatting, you can stamp these pretty much however you want them to go. And, you know, nothing's wrong. Okay, so that is that. Let's go with these ones. I'll go down a little bit more. Like I said, I'll try not to do it exactly the same as the other side. And we can mix and match too, okay? You can put those ones with the pines on it and mix it in here. So see, I just used that little part right there, okay? But now, let's try a couple of the other ones here. Let's go with this larger one. This one's really large. As far as, you know, proximity to the viewer. First impression with this one now. In the next set that I'll be using, it's the Deciduous Trees, so you can do them in black, you know, if it's like a nighttime type of thing, but we can also do them in all kinds of colors, which is exciting. With the pine bows here, I wouldn't do them in too light of green. I like a version of, you know, some black or like a bottle green. And then you can put on some lighter highlights on it, but for the most part, keep them, you know, fairly dark, because that's the way I think they're the most effective. Okay, so this one is this larger one. Let's bring this a little bit lower in the composition. Could be higher, you know, it's okay. Yeah, see that right there? I think that is it right there. So you have that. See this larger one? So it's like something that's even closer. You can put another one right here, but I like this little corridor going up through there. I think that is quite effective. Let's try the gulls right here. Let's do that right into the sky, like that. What we could do, oh my gosh, when I finish this one off, I'll put some extra blues around here, but I think we can do those light beams coming through these bows like that. I usually have them going through the full tree, but now that we have these branches here, we can have the light beams coming, like say, underneath that branch and over this one, so it can look really three-dimensional. Okay, so I can't wait to do that. We won't do it here. We'll keep on track. Okay. Let's keep this one right here. Let's do. You saw this lakeside cabin stamped higher in the composition, giving more space for the water down below. Let's stamp it up lower, and we'll have that the same pine structure coming from overhead, like an overhang or whatnot. All right. Okay. Lower, we'll go about right here. We'll just go kind of centered. Cabin's off to the left-hand side, but I'm saying this full stamp is, right on this quarter page. By the way, these are all quarter page pieces of cardstock. Okay. So we have that there, and let's put that overhanging structuring to it. And then we can put whatever we want in the background later on. Let's kind of just get the foundational structure down. Not that, a mountain in the background is not part of the foundation, but it's wide open as far as what we can do. It could be a cloud, sky figure, Milky Way, whatever you want. Okay, so let's do this. Let's try some different angles. I did this one was about like that. As I come around here, let's rotate it quite a bit. So it's from that to that. It's almost kind of a 90-degree, maybe. Okay. So you have that like that. You can do that like that. Let's layer it. Okay, let's test out a little bit of layering. So that's just the black. You can have that coming from below too. I think that would be good. Let's try that, and let's go with Let's go with this. But okay, now this one right here, let's keep it fairly light, okay? So let's put a little bit of black on there, okay? So I didn't tap too much on there, all right? And then let's go with this green. I need to re-ink these. This pen. All right, this pen's like absorbing all of the ink. It's just because this one is just so dry. All right, let me find a juicier one. I don't know when I re-ink these. I have a video on the re-inking of Marvy pens, which is possible because they have re-inkers made for their stamp pads. You know, they don't have every single re-inker for every pen they have, though, because there's, I don't know, 120 pens or something like that. There were only, what? I don't know what it was, 50 or I don't know, something. I don't remember how many pads there were, but not as many pads as there were pens, R pens. Okay, so coming in like this, I stamped, I inked up a lot more than I thought, than I needed, but it's always better to kind of ink up a little bit more, or a lot more, than what you think you're going to need, than to potentially, accidentally, whatever, stamp out an image, and oh my gosh, I didn't, color in that whole area, and it does, and it's missing, or something like that. Let's do this right here. Let's blot this off. I think that green was fairly dark. Let's get this right in here. Okay, so I'm stamping a good portion of it right in here. So we have that. It stands out a little bit too much right now, but by the time I blend in some blues in the background like that and give it kind of an overall continuity, that green will blend right in there. Okay, so that is coming from above. And let's create some continuity here, okay? So that green is the same green as this green right here. So I will stamp out some versions of some reeds in green down here, okay? Just like up top, with the top foliage and foreground. And we'll go with the black here. And we'll create a little bit of the same type of depth down below, okay? So we'll go for visual continuity as far as our color scheme goes. All right, but then, it doesn't look finished because it's not. It needs that coloring in there. If it was on, I don't have any matte papers that I'm working with right now, just because I wanted to get to this and I didn't have any cut out, but if it was on kind of more of a matte or that silk, you can use colored pencils, pastels, whatever on there. On this case, we'll use our wet media, such as additional dye-based inks. Alcohol inks maybe too for some embellishment. All right, so, while I do that, I'm going to make my life a little bit easier. This is not getting off track. I'm not finishing off this piece right here, but let's go with a little bit of water down here. Okay, water pattern. Okay. Go like so with our water pattern down below. Okay, so see how it's a really light version of water. A lot of times I like to have my perimeter darker than the center areas. Okay, because that creates a nice vignette and kind of framing device. All right, so that being said, this is just a little aside here with the water pattern. So I went with the lighter blue for pretty full coverage of that water area, and then with the darker blue, I'll come out and I'll be a little bit more perimeter oriented, okay? And the pattern, the texture of this creates its own kind of lighting. You can see what I mean. It gave me a little bit of a head start in terms of lighting just by stamping this in a darker blue, but more perimeter oriented with lighter blues in here. So you see that? How it transitions, it's a lighter to darker out here. And see how that kind of creates that light on the water because this is darker. And we haven't even come in with additional tones yet. That's the thing that really does it, but, you know, you can do it with texture as well. In a little degree, the lighter versions of the pine boughs in the background are also kind of contributing to the lighting scheme. You know, it's saying that the light is hitting the more distant pine boughs differently than the foreground ones, or maybe the foreground ones are just, you know, they're just in a canopy of darkness, you know, from being blocked out by other branches. So it just makes the surface a little richer as a result. Okay, so that is that. Let's hit that background here with some light blue clouds. Okay, this is where a lot of people get kind of, I don't know, they're startled sometimes that you can just take a light blue ink, stamp it over something that's black, and you don't have to mask anything off, okay? So let's just go with this blue. I'm being careful not to stamp over that cabin because the cabin rooftop is white, but see that right there? Lighter tones are always going to look farther back in the distance, and there's no need for masking with something like this. Okay, with that cloud right there, what I do, I didn't mention it in my last piece with that, you know, the twirling kind of clouds, but what I'm doing is I'm changing the angle and I'm overlapping the previous cloud like that, so you get this more seamless kind of a transition. When people want to first use this cloud, the tendency is to stack it like bricks. Okay, there's a how to use the cloud cumulus, and it's used in, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 200 videos that incorporate it in there. All right, so there's our stamp sketch there. You see how those bows kind of, you know, really bring us into the piece in terms of having something close to us. It's like, you know, standing under a canopy of, you know, a tall tree here. Oh gosh, I don't have them, but these would be perfect for. I don't have them out just right now. But these would be perfect for the tree trunks, the tree trunk trio. You know, it might look like sequoias or something like that. Okay, let's go for, I don't know, maybe 2 more here and see how that goes. Let's incorporate them with some larger pine trees like this, okay? So let's go like this. Let's have it out in the water like this. Okay, but here's the thing. We have these in whatever black or what, you know, here on this postcard. If I stamp this in black, all right, and I stamp this right over the top of it, they're going to blend in just visually too much, okay? So let's go with this and try to get it in a lighter value. And that's where this kind of blending kind of comes into play. So going black, I don't want that, right? But we do want, you know, somewhat of a version of it, so I'll come in with my green. Now this is not doing it, okay? I'm going to have to do some additional toning, okay? Because still, you know, this green is getting polluted with the black. Don't let that scare you. This is how everyone used to use their pens, and it was no big deal. Okay, so as I do this, I'm kind of going like this, and then I'll kind of wipe it off my pen. I'll come in here a little bit more, and I'm starting to remove a lot of that black, but it's also blending into the you know, the surrounding area, so we're getting a nice blend. And now maybe I can come in with an even lighter green, okay? Yeah, it's not really light. This is my real dry one that I just added over there. Okay, well, maybe we can do this. This is kind of acting. It's transferring a little bit of ink, but it's also removing a lot of that ink down there. So that, in a way, can also get it to be a lighter value when we stamp it out. All right, so let's see. I don't know if I inked up the bottom portion of this very much. All right, let's go about about right here. Okay. All right. So you get those versions of green. See that? This is like pure black right here because I figured the bow would be coming in over here, so it doesn't matter if this is black. But these ones I wanted lighter. All right? So you get that variation right there. All right. And let's see, what do we want over here? How many times have I used the... I think I only used the Lakeside Cove once here so far, so... Alright, I'm just going to go with this one just in straight black. I'm going to overlap the rocks and pines and rocks a little bit. When you overlap things, you get that nice blending of imagery, hopefully in a nice seamless fashion, okay? No masking necessary. Okay, so normally I would have this all the way flush left in this composition. But I have these bows now, so we can add these in to the mix. And they can be the side kind of element here, okay? I have to get used to the left and right side, just from a visual standpoint. I mean, I'm not going to mistake it. All right, we have that. I didn't ink up this back part. I'll probably be using like half of it or so, I'm guessing. And let's go about like so. Okay. It's really creating a really strong, it's a super strong visual lead-in. It's by what I call visual lead-ins, I don't know. That's just my term I made up. But they lead the viewer into the scene. So it's like things that are pointing. These are like kind of arms, you know, nature's little things. It's like a hand or an arm with fingers kind of pointing that way. So it's leading you into the piece. It becomes very inviting, you know, to have those like that. You can have them going from the other side, and it's kind of pointing the viewer. It's giving them direction, you know, hopefully in a nice, welcoming way. But and it's also framing the piece off as well. So you can frame it from left and right. You can frame them from above. Whichever way you want. Okay, let's go like this. Let's go to just a little bit of it right up here. Like that. Okay. Alright. Oh, let's see. As I do this, I want something down here now. Down there in the water. Let's go with a little bit more water pattern. All right, watch this one right here. Before I used two different values of blue to create this variation in color down here, or in shade and value, okay? But let's do one value of blue. So what you do for that to create that depth is you start off on the areas that are going to be darkest, which is, you know, usually the perimeter maybe. It's not always that, but that's what I usually do. But then, see, by the time you stamp it out a few times like that, I'm stamping it in the lighter area like that, okay? So you go more perimeter oriented with your first few impressions, okay? And then you can kind of build it up a little bit more like this, okay? So this is kind of like a shading tool, right? But I'm just showing you that you don't have to have all these different values of blue, or whatever color you're working with, because you can, by stamping some of this off, you can make it drier on the stamp, and thus the impressions are lighter. Okay, so again, we have nice variations of blue down here, and it goes from dark to light like that, but it's from one color of pad. You're just using it, the ink more strategically. All right, so let's see. Do I stamp my clouds in here now, or let's do that. Let's just use a real light blue. And again, the lighter the blue, the stronger the silhouettes are going to be for, not only the pines down here, but also the pine boughs, okay? There you have it, like that, okay? So a nice foundation. I mean, you could be done, just by doing that. If someone's like a real beginner, and just, you're stamping compositions. But there's a pretty decent sense of lighting in here. But adding a little bit more tone would really make these look really nice. Okay, now, see, you don't have to add things like, just blue clouds in the background for all of these. I mean, if I want this to be a sunset scene, then I still have, the options are wide open right here because I haven't added any color to this so far. So, I don't know, I'll do different types of color schemes for that. Okay, so that is that. Let's try, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 compositions that we tried so far. And let's take a look, out of curiosity, of what some impressions might look like with these bows and branches on maybe a different color. Silver on dark blue. I don't know, white on dark. Let's see how that looks. Let me see if I have the right color or media surface combinations here. Okay. All right. So this is just a piece of scrap paper right here. All right. Let's try some of these bows. I'm really curious. In a dark background, lighter foreground. Okay. So let's see. I just need to clean this off a little bit. A lot of detail in here, and a lot of places for ink to hide in those branches. Okay, so let's try this one in just a Brilliance Moonlight White. Okay. It's kind of interesting like that, huh? Okay, now this is a really thick pigment ink. I'm looking at that ink on the stamp. It looks pretty good in terms of the retention of detail. Potentially, we'll see how it stamps out on here. Okay, so this is a Brilliance ink. I'm stamping it onto a dark glossy cardstock. You can't really do that with other types of like oil-based pigment ink, okay? Because that oil is just not going to penetrate the glossy cardstock coating surface, okay? But that being said, if you do it with a standard oil-based pigment ink, you can just clear emboss, okay? And, you'll get a similar look. It's not as crisp because the embossing powder itself is, that looks really awesome. Okay, see how that detail still remains. Now, as I was making that impression, I was being careful not to kind of squish, the image down too much. You want to do flat, nice, even impressions. This would look really fantastic in silver embossing, too, over this dark cardstock. Okay, let me go with this down below here a little bit. All right, see that? You can do something like this. This one's too big, but like if you want to do these slimline cards, you can do a, bookmark or something like that. Put a little quote in there or something like that. Okay, so that is the white on dark. This happens to be a dark, super dark navy blue, but I think the silver would look kind of interesting on that as well. Okay, let's see. Let's try it on. Should I try it on a piece of silver? Let's try it on silver. I'm stamping it high. Maybe I'd want to do little ornaments or something like that, or a quote stamp underneath it. All right, that's what that looks like that. It almost looks embossed, doesn't it? Raised. Little stars down here would be cool. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be a neat idea. Okay, so that is that on that. Like I said, I'll finish these pieces off on a future video, or, I don't know, maybe the next one. And we'll test that out and see what some of these look like. I get the gist of it. I mean, these ones, there's not like a big kind of learning curve, as far as usage or placement or something like that. You use it in the same places that with other designs, you use it in the same place that we've done things in the past. You just you do it on the perimeters like that, coming in from the outside edge in. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do something like this branch right here completely, just sitting like right smack dab in the middle, kind of floating in the middle of a piece of paper. I guess you could, you can do something like this and say, Merry Christmas above, and this could be in silver, and you put it up here in silver. So I don't know, something like that. But not a huge mystery as far as placement goes. Overhangs coming from above, off to the side. This is really going over to the right here, so I don't have another one coming in here because it would just dominate this area. So I just have that little bit of it up there. You can have some of this. I didn't use the juniper, but the juniper could be used down here or anywhere where I've used these reeds down here. The juniper can be used. The juniper could also be like I think it's a pickleweed. Pickleweed, was that what it was called? In that kind of transition zone, like in a wetland kind of situation where you know, you get both the salt and fresh water. But I thought that looked like that to me. But that could be used in here too, so you can kind of just imagine that being used down here. What? Let's just use it. I think that I just held it up next to it and I thought, no, that looks pretty good. Like that. Might as well use all of them. I didn't use one of those, the pine cone bow. Okay, so let's go with some of this right down here. I want to leave some room if I want to have something in that water area. But let's bring this in here. I think that looks great. And that little extra texturing down there. Okay. All right, so that's just used down here. I'll show you what this looks like stamped down. I mean, you can see it right here. That's what it looks like, you know. But let's stamp it out, you know, to give you the good idea on impression, and especially like detail, quality. This block is a little bit too small for the image, but it should stamp out fine. Okay, so let me just stamp it. I don't know. Let's say we have a bunch of bushes or something like that that we're standing behind looking into you know, scene. So that's what that looks like right there. Okay, and again, it's one of those things you can stamp, you know, ink it up in black and add a little bit of green to it if you want to. Just for a slight variation, okay? The reason why I don't go with a light color and then a dark color is because it would be just so distinct on here, unless you really kind of blend it in. So that lifting off of some of the color with the lighter one just seems to blend better to me. See that right in there, that little bit of into green, there's a little bit of it over that way. But you can have a scene in here that those bushes can be like that. Let's add fill in this little spot right here. All right, so anyway, I'm just going to leave that as that. That's juniper. You can have it out in the desert too as well. I see juniper growing out at the high deserts all the time. Let's take a look and see what we have here. All right. All right. I love that look right there. It's kind of, you know, it's a fast and easy way to get that type of reverse look without having to emboss. I mean, I think the embossing would look even more, you know, kind of three-dimensional because it is. But, you know, not having, you know, you have to place the powder and all of that. I think that looks really good. Like that. All right. So, let's see what we have here. All right, now I've left these ones open here. You know, they're just green. I mean, well, the pine branches are green, but that's as far as the color goes in there. So we can do, you know, like a sunset on these ones or something like that. Whatever we want to do. You know, the darker ones like this are going to be more limiting, you know, because we can add lighter tones in that. What lighter tone do we have? You know, we have white pigmenting. We have our kind of line your back and look up at the sky type of thing. Both the left and right sides, and then that larger fir branch like that. A little bit of corridor in between here. I mean, if we stamp that out right here, another one, and it kind of blocked this all off down here, I mean, that would look fine too, but I just think having that little space in there kind of was the kind of the better way to go. This one right here, stacking them, you know, having the two elements in here with the spruce limb left like that, coming from above, stamped twice, you know, stamped almost in entirety, then just using that portion right up above. Going with the large limb here, and then it looks like I stamped it down here in a lighter value. Same thing that's going on in these ones right here. You know, the thing is, I mean, these are all quarter pages right here, but I think what might be, you know, really good too is that these are having these the size of they are like this. Here, I'll put it in relation to a piece of quarter page card like this. Okay, see how that kind of reaches, you know, way in there. A lot of times I was just using that part of it, but here, but the half page kind of format, I think, would also be a snap for these images. I mean, that would be coming in this way, but see that right there? It almost makes it to the middle of this half page right here, 8.5 by 5.5. So you can have these coming in from both sides like that. I don't know, might even be a more effective size, but certainly having this this size right here, it can cover a lot of ground very quickly in your compositions to just fill in effectively an entire, I don't know, it's about like a quarter of the page, you know, just with just one image, okay? So, I mean, even though like this one right here, this slim line right here doesn't look like it kind of overpowers this. This is just two impressions with that so far on there. You know, I think this will look great with some clouds or something like that in the moon over here. Maybe that's the way I'll finish this one off. Okay, so anyways, a lot of ideas to ponder here. I wouldn't say that this, you know, the set here is just suddenly got, you know, the wheels churning, because they're just kind of another option for a usage, you know, and application that I've been doing, you know, since the start of Stampscapes and scenic stamping in general. It's just having these elements like this there in order to frame off a piece really nicely to create those visual lead-ins into a scene. It's just that suddenly instead of like a pine tree, or where maybe this used to be the foreground, or, you know, the reeds might be in front of this too, okay? But these reeds right here, just in theory or whatever, I mean, they could represent something closer, but I think these pine boughs look like they're even closer to us maybe than this. I don't know, it's really similar, but of course these ones, you know, I'm not going to have some reeds coming from above usually in a scene, where these ones are just as fine coming from low or high, you know, just because of the nature of what they are. Okay, so anyways, you know what I mean by that? You can use a fir branch like this, you know, coming from below, and it's a sapling that's really close to us. You know, it's a, you know, a smaller tree. Or you can have it coming from above, and it's this taller tree, you know, over our heads, you know, with a branch that's kind of looping down. So you can, you know, with these types of things, it's either way. Okay, so anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed these pieces right here. I am anxious, oh, here's another one, to finish some of these off right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 kind of foundations right here. And a lot more to come. Okay, so anyways, thanks for watching again. And thanks as always for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.